Happy Friday, and welcome to our 5th episode of Too Large and a Sarge. I'm Nancy.
I'm Tegan.
And I'm Sam, and remember, our program is rated R. When I say rated R, I mean we're real people talking about real topics and real life.
And you can catch our show Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, or SoundCloud.
And I guess our biggest topic to talk about this morning, we have lost yet another celebrity that actually was one of my childhood crushes, believe it or not.
I can believe it.
I do. I mean,
Really?
Go
See,
ahead.
David Cassidy passed away, and he wasn't even old. He was 67, which kind of blows my mind. I don't even know. It doesn't say here exactly what he passed away from. I'm looking at Wikipedia, by the way, for this. He was an American actor. He was a singer, songwriter, guitarist. Obviously, he was known for his role as Keith Partridge, the son of Shirley Partridge on The Partridge Family. I think he was I think he was known for that open shirt and that feathered hair.
The feathered hair,
he was just
the Leif Garrett hair. Well, Leif Garrett had the same hair
Oh.
back in the 80s, but yeah, a lot of us grew up watching a Partridge Family, and
Oh, yeah.
See, I didn't. Maybe that's why.
we did, and always just loved his happy little bubblegum tunes and everything else.
Oh, yeah. David Cassidy, I don't think, now, in later years, I don't think he was cute and everything, but as a kid, that little smile of his,
Yeah.
and he was just so bouncy and so happy, and he, always dressed nice and things like that, so I was in love with him. It was always David Cassidy and, what was his name from the Monkees? I was in love with one of the guys from
Mickey
the
Rourke.
Monkees.
Or no, not Mickey.
Not
Rourke.
Mickey. Ew.
Ew.
Oh, Mickey Rourke was not good.
Ew, sorry.
Not the right name,
Not
but there
the
was
right
a Mickey in the
name.
Monkees that I didn't
Yeah.
think was very good looking too. What did I think?
There was
Little
two.
guy.
There was two.
I think the one cute monkey was actually
Davy
named
Jones.
Davy.
Davy
Yeah.
Davy Jones.
So
Yeah.
Davy Jones and David Cassidy
Mickey Rourke,
were
sorry.
handsome.
Yeah.
I'm sad to hear that he passed away. His show was just, as soon as I hear the name David Cassidy, it takes me back to a really fantastic place in my childhood. When I was playing with my dollar Barbies and combing my Cabbage Patch Kids.
no.
Oh wait, I couldn't comb.
Couldn't
I couldn't
comb
comb it.
Couldn't
His
comb
head.
the Cabbage Patch Kid hair, no. But it kind of brings up another thing. In October we lost Tom Petty, but with social media and everything, is he dead? Is he not dead? Did he die?
Did he not die?
Did he not die?
Who's reporting this? Is this nurses or doctors reporting it, like an early
Yeah.
death? Like, oh, we've got Tom Petty here and he's dead. Like, there's so many violations going on here. If that's the case, like,
I know.
he's
absolutely.
dead, he's not dead, he's dead again.
HIPAA.
He's HIPAA violations.
Yeah, tell me about it. For a period of 2 days to almost 3 days, I didn't know what was going on with Tom Petty.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me, at this point with celebrity news and the way that it's been, don't even tell me unless the body's cold.
Yes,
like let's
absolutely.
not talk about him being in critical condition.
agree.
Let's not talk about him having any issues. Just let me know if the dude's alive, he's alive. If he's
Tom Petty was
gone,
only
let me
66.
know.
Like, he was only 66. These
I know.
guys are dying young.
I
Well, I
know.
mean, they probably...
I know they partied pretty hard.
They probably
Oh, yeah.
partied pretty hard, and
I'm sure there were.
just a lifestyle. I mean,
Yeah.
even if it wasn't partying hard, if you're on the go all the time and you're touring all the time, even Tom
That's
Petty,
tough.
it's been a while since he put out a new record, and he still every summer he had a tour, and he was always in
Right.
Pittsburgh, and
I
you
know.
know
That was honestly, like, I was never a big Tom Petty fan until I saw him in Burkittstown there. He put on a heck of a show.
I never
It was
got to see him, but I've
fantastic.
always loved him. Always loved
Yeah.
Tom Petty.
It's so funny though. It seems to be a trend going on too. Now this was way back, but David Bowie, when he passed, he was in his late 60s too. Like all the
Really?
greats are like passing
How
in their
old
late
I'm
60s.
gonna look up how old was Prince.
Oh, he wasn't that old. He was in
No.
his 50s.
Was he really?
I think Prince, you probably
Yeah,
are
but
right.
he had a little bit of a help there. It wasn't natural causes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we got but Cassidy. Bowie and Petty
Petty
all
all
died
in
in
the
late 60s.
mid-60s,
Yeah,
mid to late
it was almost like
60s.
the trend when they died young. It was almost always at the age of 27 that they passed. Several of the greats back
Janis
in the days.
Joplin, Jimi Hendrix,
Jim Morrison.
Jim Morrison.
He was like 27 years old. Like it was a
Yeah.
27-year-old trend.
Yeah, Prince was only 57.
Okay, I was gonna say I didn't think he was.
Fentanyl overdose.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I think what did we find out about Cassidy? Wasn't it? I think just natural causes, wasn't it?
I
I
think.
assume I've seen a picture of him recently, and he didn't
looked
look like
pretty rough.
he looked pretty rough. I don't know what the exact cause of it was.
And speaking of passings too, so we
Oh.
had Cassidy pass this week, and also we had
Another American icon. Maybe not.
Icon.
Oh, trust me, he's an icon. Everybody would know. You could tell. There's people out there going, who David who? But there, if you mention Charles Manson, I
Yeah.
guarantee just about everybody's going to say, "Oh, Charles Manson, the crazy guy over in California that killed a bunch of people."
Famous, infamous, it's still the same thing.
Yeah.
You're still
Right.
known by a lot of people, whether it be terribly good or terribly bad. And he passed away, the cult leader, at 83 years of age. Now, he did die from natural causes. I mean, come on, he was 83 years old.
He was
when
83.
passed.
Nuttier than squirrel turds.
To digress for just a second, it said David Cassidy died of liver failure.
Oh, did
Okay,
he?
I was going to say liver failure. It looked like he was
He
pretty
looked
like
pretty
jaundiced
rough.
and everything
Yeah.
else.
Oh.
Yowza.
Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, Charles Manson was still, when I was growing up, he was still fresh because they had the movie Helter Skelter came out, and it was kind of like a documentary, and it described everything that was going on, and just wowed. I grew up knowing this man being on TV and a swastika on his forehead, and
I'll tell you this much. I don't know a ton of history, and I don't want to give inaccurate information about Charlie Manson. But Manson, from an early age, wanted to be a star. He
Absolutely.
wanted to be known by everybody. Now, he had the goal. He was a songwriter. I guess in that aspect, he was, to some degree, I guess, talented, or at least he thought he was talented enough to make it big in the music scene. That failed miserably for him.
he was very resentful towards the Beach Boys because him and the Beach Boys were collaborating together.
So, yeah, I mean, of course, he wanted to be a celebrity. He got upset because the Beach Boys. I think it was because he felt that he was closer affiliated with them than what he really
Right, he was
was
trying to make himself part of the band, and he was kind of a hanger-out, and he had wrote a song, and they did record it, but he was like, oh, I'm a Beach Boy. Like, no, you're not a Beach Boy. You wrote a song, and that was it. Yeah.
And, well, he decided he was going to make himself famous one way or another, and he definitely took a complete 180 in his path of what he was going to do.
Yeah, and he wrote other songs too, and Guns N' Roses recorded one of his songs in the Spaghetti Incident back in the early '90s, also.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things, though, that he's known for, and it was crazy because he wasn't even there at the time that it happened, was that the death of Sharon Tate.
The Tate murders, yeah.
Absolutely. She
Murder,
was,
murder by proxy.
yeah.
That's what it's called.
They said that he ordered the murder.
Right.
He wasn't along for the ride. Tex Watson and whoever else was there. And he had these people, brainwashed. They thought he was Jesus Christ. They called him Jesus Christ. And he got people to do whatever he wanted. And I think he probably thought he was Jesus Christ. I think, there's definitely mental issues there. You can't be that far gone and not have a screw loose or, be a little...
Complete narcissist.
Be a complete narcissist.
Absolutely.
And, he saw himself as Jesus Christ also. And he preached peace as far as the masses go, but then he wanted more followers, so he wanted to create an illusion that whites needed to stick with whites, and a big Helter Skelter, which was a song from the Beatles, and he dubbed it, the apocalyptic racial war, and that's what he was preaching. He was preaching race war, and he wanted to, do killings on the whites and then make the blacks take the blame for it.
Yeah.
And he went on a ride along for the one killing, the La Bianca murders, because he wanted to show them how it was done. So he went along for that, and he helped in the house. Whether he actually pulled the trigger or stabbed anybody, they don't know. But he was along in the car, and they just picked a random house, went and saw a guy sitting in there. They broke in the house, and then they killed the people in the house, the La Biancas.
Do you know if he was kept in segregation?
He was segregation.
He would have had to have been.
He was segregation. When he was in segregation, he would tear apart T-shirts, underwear, with the elastic bands, and he would make animals. I don't know if you ever seen any of his animals he would make out of thread and everything else. He made spectacular spiders, scorpions, everything, and he would paint them with shoe polish black. And a few of them, before it got huge, got smuggled out by prison guards, and they were selling them. They were selling these art by Charles Manson for big money.
Oh wow.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Big money.
I was
It was
trying
a
to see if I
weird-
could see any pictures of these animals that he
I
was.
was looking on just CNN has all sorts of facts and stuff about him, but reportedly, which is very weird, during his childhood, his mother sold him for a pitcher of beer to a woman who wanted to have children, and then his uncle had to find the woman so that he could get his nephew back. That's kind of messed up.
Wow.
Yeah, he had a rough upbringing.
He's unique though versus other. Like I would consider him yet a serial killer, but he kind of was, kind of wasn't. I mean, he didn't actually force the trigger or be part of any of the murders, but to be able to influence people to have a body count like he had and commit the murders that he had, that's something else. But you'd have to come from a bad background, and most of the research that I have done on serial killers is most of them have that kind of upbringing. So just a powerful guy. No wonder why they kept him in segregation. I guarantee you, whether crazy or not, if he's believing his own self that strongly, there will be people that will flock towards
There
that.
will
absolutely.
be. Yeah, he's a very influential person. And
Sam
gosh.
just brought up these pictures of some of his
string
animals that
string
he,
art he makes.
yeah, I mean, they're phenomenal. I mean, but I guess when you have that much time on your hands, you know you're not going anywhere. I guess you can start getting a little more crafty and creative. But, yeah.
And he was, I mean, there's claims now that people that are in solitary confinement go crazy. He was crazy. Could you imagine what his mind was like after, well, he's been in since 71, so over 40 years of segregation.
Right.
Yeah.
Oof.
And he had those girls so brainwashed that they shaved their heads and they tattooed swastikas on their forehead just like they did during the trials, and they held hands and they sung and they talked about Charlie being the son of God and he's the father. And
I'd be curious about their backgrounds too, though. They would have had some serious trauma in their lives to believe
I don't
that.
know.
I would
You
wonder.
got Tex Watson
I think.
was a college football player, an
Really?
outstanding college football player, an athlete and everything else, and he got.
And these girls, at least one or two of them, I seen remarkable looking girls.
They were
you know.
gorgeous.
Not that the person's worth's based on how they look or anything, but these are girls that could probably have chosen far better life paths than they did. But I'm just looking at a picture of him right now at 83, and man,
He's scary. He was a scary fella.
it frightened me when I heard that he was going to be paroled, or there was talks of him being paroled. It was frightening to me because just because your body's old, it doesn't mean his mind was completely. How do I say this the right way? His mind was gone his whole life, but that doesn't mean that he still couldn't be influential at that
Right.
age, you know. And I'm sure there are people out there that were still very passionate about him. I mean, it scares me because it's almost like that. What could have happened with him being released could have almost been like the show The Following, which you still have yet to watch it, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
It's Kevin Bacon's show, and this guy.
I've seen that. I saw the first season of that show. It's
That
very
was a
good show.
crazy, scary show because you didn't know where his followers were, who they were. They were everybody from people in business suits to people in gothic outfits to
Yeah.
your next door neighbor trimming the hedges.
That's a good show.
Yeah,
It's a
it
very
was
good show.
phenomenal, and it's scary because thinking of somebody like Charlie Manson being out and him getting a chance to discover. Can you imagine Charlie Manson and the internet right now?
Oh,
Could you
no.
imagine if the internet would have been out when he first started creating his cult? How crazy that would have been. We could have had another Jonestown circumstance with him. I'm sure he would have been able to get thousands upon thousands of followers. Like that's some scary stuff. And scary, even more scary is he could have potentially created that race war that he was looking for with enough backing behind him.
Yeah.
That's something else. That's absolutely something else. And seeing as the start of the show is already dark, did either one of you hear about the story about the inmate in Columbus, Ohio, that is going to get a pillow to listen to this. An inmate will get a pillow to help him breathe during an execution.
That doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't make sense. I thought the whole part of an execution is to stop breathing.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's already going to be limited in his breath, half the battle's been won already.
Yes.
It's crazy. This pillow is going to be a wedge-shaped pillow. that they will use to help him breathe as he's being given the lethal injection.
Right, because he's become too ill for the lethal injection. His name is Alva Campbell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I guess they've tried it once already. I guess they tried to perform the execution, but I had heard something, I hope this isn't false information, but I heard something that they weren't able to find veins that were suitable
Right.
for putting the IV,
IV
in
in.
for the execution.
Yeah, he has a severe chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder as the result of decades-long 2-pack-a-day smoking habit, the doctor says.
And here, there's so many things about this story that drives me nuts. First off, let's put the pillow really to good use. I'm hoping it's a heavy wedge pillow, and instead of putting it on the back of his neck, let's just flip it over, or flip it around from the back of the neck to the front of the face.
Yeah.
That's execution.
Let's do it fancy. Let's do it memory foam, so it just conforms to every
shape of
crevice
his little
of his evil sadistic face.
So what did this guy do?
He killed an 18-year-old kid who dropped out of school because he needed to support his siblings and his mother. He dropped out of school at 18 to get a job because he had to support his family.
Oh, wow.
So he got a traffic ticket. He's pulling up to pay the traffic ticket. This Alva Campbell jumps in, drives around for 3 hours with this guy, Charles Dowles, I think is his name, on the floorboard of the truck. For 3 hours, this guy's on the floor still alive. He pulls in the parking lot, executes him, and then walks away. For no good reason. There was no good reason at all.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, if you're being put to death, you have done something so heinous. And thanks for that information, because I didn't research that. But you've done something so heinous and so horrible and so terrible and proven that you're being put to death, and now we're worried about creating and crafting this special pillow so you can breathe to die.
I don't understand it, and everybody's like, or his lawyers or whatever, like, well, he's this and who was standing up for Charles Dowles he was on a floorboard of a truck for 3 hours. How uncomfortable was this? Now, this guy's going to have poison shot in his veins, and he's going to die almost instantly.
What about the guy in the truck's neck?
That's what I said. Yeah, that's what I said.
They didn't care about him.
They didn't care about him. Nobody asked, and that's the thing of everything. Everybody wants to, well, we can't do this, we can't do that.
That's inhumane.
Yeah, inhumane's making a man lay on the floorboards of a truck for 3 hours with a gun pointed to his head.
An 18-year-old just turned man.
Yeah. Who dropped out of high school because he had to support his family.
Yeah. And it's driving me nuts, because looking further into this article, they're talking about that they had played around with the idea of executing him with fire squad.
Yeah, it says earlier this month Campbell lost a bid to be executed by firing squad after a federal judge questioned whether lawmakers would enact the bill to allow the method.
Here's what drives me nuts. I'm looking further into this article, and they're talking about his childhood. I guess this Campbell was regularly beaten, sexually abused, and tortured. I don't care.
No.
I don't get that.
I don't care.
They say people that, but he was beaten, he was raped as a kid and everything else. Well, then they know the pain that was put on them, but then they push it off to other people. They create that pain with it, and that's not normal. And I don't feel bad for anybody. I feel bad if somebody was raped and beaten as a kid, and they grew up and they kept those scars and they knew what had happened, but they don't continue hurting. They don't continue that vicious cycle of hurting somebody else because you were hurt.
It's about, I believe.
And he'd actually, like it says, he'd actually killed another man in 1992 in a Cleveland bar.
This is a history.
Yeah.
This is a history here.
He shouldn't be able to choose the firing squad. He should be torn apart in pieces. The slowest, the best to kill this man. A bullet's too good for this man.
Well, so how long was it? Like, what I don't understand is, why do they wait so long? Like, why doesn't it, when these people are charged, with the death penalty, like, why do they wait?
They give them stays of execution. It's just continuous legal jargon and red tape, and it's ridiculous.
We as taxpayers have already paid enough money out to give him 4 walls, a place to lay his head every night, food,
a warm, comfortable place to lay his head.
Yeah.
Probably better than he's ever had in his life.
Based on his history, I'd say so. It's again, and you touched on You've touched on a really great point with that. You said earlier about people, I hate to say it, it happens more than I'd like to admit, and I'm sure for the people that it's happened to more than it should. But we have molestation and terrible things happen to terrible people all the time. It's the mentality that you carry it with.
Right.
You can have a victim mentality where you go around the rest of your life feeling that, carrying that and using it as a reason to do some of the things that you do.
Right.
And what I mean by that is in the case of this gentleman, he had a rough history.
Not gentleman.
That's right. He
Right,
wasn't
garbage.
a gentleman. He had his whole life to choose. You're still given a choice after something like that happens. He had a choice to go in a lot of different directions. There are a lot of free programs available. There's church environments that you can go to. There's counselors. There's facilities and things put into place where if it's that extreme for you personally to handle it, that you can go to and choose to go to work through these issues. I bet if we looked in the history of it, he probably didn't choose a one.
No, I'm sure he didn't.
No,
So-
and all this red tape with this. Has anybody asked the family what they want?
The family of the victim.
The family of the
yeah.
victim. Like, this man didn't give that young man a choice. And I don't think he should be given a choice. And I think it should come down. You're sentenced to execution. Give him 30 days. All right, 30 days. If you can prove something that you're innocent or you shouldn't get executed, that's it. On that 30th day, you're plugging in your chair, you're throwing a switch. Next.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree.
It's a draw on society, and everybody's like, well, we got to save money somewhere. We got to save money here. How about killing the people that need killed that are on execution?
Like, quit wasting time.
Quit wasting time and money. You're just for the people that need the court system, it's just being tied up because of crap like this.
Right. Actually, with I told you before about serial killers. I've read up a lot on Eileen Wuornos. For those of you that heard that name but not familiar with who she is, it was if you're a movie watcher, Charlize Theron. She played her in the movie Monster.
Oh, okay.
With Christina Ricci.
Ricci.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Eileen Wuornos did a ton of interviews while she was in prison, and she was tired of the process. She was ready to go.
There's some that are like, let's let's get it done.
Her bags are packed. She's ready to take off. Let's go. Now, of course, she was crazy during her interview. She said that she was going to go up on a spaceship, man,
there you
and all
go.
this other good stuff. But she was ready to go. She's like, move me to the front of the line. I've committed crimes. I'm not getting relief from my crimes. I'm clearly going to be here. Let's just make this happen. And it's just a drain. It's a drain, too. I mean, look how much money we're spending on this. Look how much time we're wasting on this guy that didn't give this guy and two guys, apparently, that he murdered any consideration and any thought and any feeling. Come on.
No, and this guy's, regardless, is probably going to be dead in 6 months. He has a colostomy bag. It possibly has lung cancer. He uses a walker. I think on his deathbed, they should jam needles right in his neck and force that poison right in his veins. Keep him alive until we can kill him. Don't let him die, an honorable death of, natural causes or whatever.
Right.
Just lop his head off. I don't care.
Or just stop wasting money on valuable medicine and medical treatments that other
'cause
people
I'm
could
sure,
use.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just use a pillow and smother him to death.
Yeah,
Right.
use that wedge-shaped pillow and end it. And I know we're having a dark conversation, but again, this is part of what the show is all about for us as well too. Real people having real conversations about real life. We're real passionate about this because if you've listened to the first episode, Sam has seen this in the correctional institutions. These people that they've done heinous crimes. Some of the stories we couldn't even wrap our minds around, I think, as normal people or as close to normal as possible. I think we're all a little crazy nowadays, but I don't think we can wrap our minds around. And I think there should be definitely a backup plan as well, too. I don't care if you can't do lethal injection. I like that they talked about using shooting as a form of taking this guy out then. Let's do it, though. Let's get something done. Heck, I'm a big fan. let's get medieval. How about that? You know, like let's.
There's so many stuff that you can do. Yeah, it's.
I guarantee you, if they went back to some of those primitive forms of execution,
Oh gosh, hanging.
oh, they wouldn't think about it
chopping off
anymore.
your head. And...
Yeah, I bet you in the prison
drawn
system.
and quartered. And
Oh, my favorite. I talk about it all the time. The Iron Bull.
the Iron Bull would be amazing.
The Brazen Bull. Have you ever heard of the Brazen Bull?
No.
Tegan?
It's a big
Hey,
bronze.
Okay, I am all unicorns and rainbows.
Well,
I
in a perfect world,
I
unicorns and
know.
rainbows would be awesome. But guess what?
It's not a perfect
I know.
world.
Medieval times, they had this big brass bull, and they would put the person inside of it, close it up, start a fire underneath it.
Oh.
And from the steam and the yelling of the person inside, it would sound like the bull was.
And the
Really?
smoke would come out
Smoke
of the
would come out of
nostrils.
its nostrils and everything else.
I guarantee you, if we kicked it medieval, give it a trial
fantastic.
period. Let's take the people ready in line for execution. Let's kick it medieval style. Give it a trial run for 6 months to a year, and you're probably going to find your crime going down. Because
Oh, clearly.
And I think I think too. It's such a draw on society.
Oh.
It's a draw on society to keep these inmates alive and pay for them, and we're taxpayers, and I think we should all have a say. And I think they should bring back public executions.
but let's make it marketable.
Let's go pay per view.
Sponsorable.
Get sponsorship.
Sponsorship.
Let's go HBO pay per view, and let's fund these. Let's fund these prisons on pay per view. I would pay $49.99 to watch somebody get killed.
There's a movie like that.
The running.
where
The
What is
running
that
Man,
movie?
yeah.
Is that what it's called?
I think
there
so.
was another
With
one,
Arnold
too, though.
Schwarzenegger and
No,
or they got
with,
Death Race 2000 and
What's his face? He's a wrestler.
Oh, I know what you're
real
talking
hot.
about.
Stone Cold
Stone
Steve
Cold,
Austin.
and I can't remember what the name of that movie was. I think we need to get serious with it. Okay, so for the people that are going to have time in prison, that they're going to be there for a long time, and we're going to be paying for them to
Right.
be there. Well, taxpayers are paying for them to be there. For the ones that we know, it is the end of the line for them, and they are just waiting to have their moment to walk the mile here. What should happen is, I agree with you. Make it marketable. Let's get sponsors for it. Let's put it on pay-per-view. And let's make it.
Sadly, it would be huge. I mean,
It would be huge. That's the
sadly, it would
society
be
that
awesomely
we're in.
it would be
well, I
huge.
don't want to watch like.
But you don't have to.
You don't have to
Yeah,
pay.
I know.
It's
Thank
pay
Pay per view. It's
Yes.
not. It's not view per view. It's pay per view.
Hey, let's talk about MMA and boxing. Some people might think it's pretty medieval to watch two people pulverize the living tar out of
Until
each
they're
other.
bloody and beaten.
Yeah, but let's take a look at the McGregor fight. That was $100 almost a pop to watch that fight, and I'm telling you, they made bank, bro. Yeah,
Oh,
just because they didn't kill
absolutely.
each other, they're
Right.
still. I mean, football. Let's talk about football. Football is a sport where people, these
Not
football
anymore.
players, are
There's
having.
so many rules that they can't.
I know, but the traumatic brain injury that
Yeah.
they're getting from this, as many times as they're getting their bells rung, and we're still paying to go watch this sport happen. I'm just saying, if we're going to pay to watch people get their heads banged up, if we're going to pay to watch people get punched and rolled around in a ring and being put in headlocks, let's get serious. Let's do executions, pay per view.
Pay per view.
And let's see what happens from there. And I guarantee you, it would probably lower the amount of executions.
Oh, absolutely it would. I was just looking up, trying to find called the Brazen Bull or the Bronze Bull or Sicilian
Yeah,
Bull.
he's pretty rough.
Yeah.
That
I'd
bull is
say.
rough.
Gee.
But it wasn't, I would say, probably the cruelest form, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
After you start cooking for so long, that's it. It's done. It's almost like, unfortunately, when there's fires and stuff.
Yeah.
The smoke gets you first, But, I mean, let's take a look at some of the other medieval forms here. The limbs ripped off and everything else,
They used to, and they brought this back during the Bosnian Herzegovina War, and they would get the pike, and they would start at the victim's anus, and they would start shoving this pike slowly up, and they got bonuses if they got it the whole way through the person, and the person was still alive at the end of it.
Sure.
And then they would raise these people up and just have them slide down, and that's how they. And that was in the 1990s. That was still going on. And the Serbs were, they'd gather around and they do this to the Bosniaks.
It's still happening. Medieval-esque forms of...
Another crazy fact about the Brazen Bull is they usually cut the victims well, they weren't really victims, their tongues out first
Oh.
before they.
Well, that probably makes sense for the reason
Yeah.
of the noise then, I bet.
Yeah.
That was the reason why they made that noise then, because they weren't
Yeah.
able to, do anything more than kind of, you
Yeah.
know. But I know for Too Large and a Sarge versus some of the other
kinda
episodes, it's a dark episode. But when I had discovered this article about this inmate, they want to make sure he breathes before he stops breathing. Like, how? I
know, that
can't
doesn't even
wrap
make
my
sense.
mind around
No,
it.
it doesn't make sense.
I think that's even more cruel than anything. So let's let him breathe to get him to a point where he's not breathing. Like, to me, that's almost sadistic hearing that. Okay, so you want to do whatever you can to accommodate him to breathe before you take his breath away. Well, why don't we just make it quick and let's do something else then? What other options can we find? And yes, I know that Sam and I got a little dramatic about talking about pay-per-view and things like that, but let's be honest. I mean, that's the kind of world that we're living in anymore, I mean,
You put it on YouTube or you put it somewhere, people are going to watch it. I can't get a watch. There's some websites out there, and it's just gore and everything else. And I watch it sometimes, and I know people are just drawn to that, and people are curious, and people want to see that without being put in a situation where they're actually there, and people film this stuff.
but it's really happening, and I think that's what people are neglecting to see. They do want to see the unicorn and rainbows, and I think that's a fantastic and wonderful thing. I want people to hang on and see what's good in this world. I think that's important, acknowledging what's still pure and what's still good and what's still wonderful. But if we're going to try to preserve that, I think that maybe for the people that don't want that we need to get a little extreme here, I think, about some of the ways that we handle it, so we can reduce the amount of tragedy and reduce the amount of terror.
We all lead ourselves down our own paths. But for people like this Charles Dowles that was killed, his path was interrupted because this guy chose to interrupt this guy's path. If we're all able to, tra-la-la down our own paths and life is good, that's great, but that's not what the world is. Other people want to influence our paths of life, so...
And I get it. Look, I get that he started off having trauma. Like I said before, he had trauma in his life. It was great trauma. There was other places, other resources, and other choices that he could have made. There are choices. That's the great thing in this life that we all have, is decisions that we can make. I'm going to get really personal here, but in my past, you would probably be shocked to find out, and because I love you as listeners, I want to share this with you. And years and years and years ago, a boyfriend of one of my friends broke into my home and attempted to rape and murder me while my son slept in the next room. Okay? That was messed up. I fought to not be raped, and I fought to not be murdered in my home. Okay. With that being said, I was messed up for a while. That's traumatizing. First off, I couldn't live on my own anymore for a period of probably a year to 2 years. My sense of security and safety in my home was stripped from me. It was raped from me and taken from me. And I know we're getting deep for this show, but I'm making a point here. I could have taken that, and I could have taken some really horrific paths. I could have been that person on intervention that was trying to drown out the horrific details of that night through drug abuse or alcohol abuse, or I could have made a lot of really horrific decisions in my life. I chose to not be a victim. I chose to turn that circumstance around and do whatever I could to make sure that justice was seen, and that this guy went to where he deserved to go, and that was in prison, and I fought hard for that. I'm not going to get into the judicial system, but it's a dog and pony show. Sometimes they'll talk you into try to give him a lesser sentence so they can appease the defendant.
Right.
After the crimes he committed, they try to appease the plaintiff, and I fought and I refused to back down, and he's put away for a long time. But because of that, if I had a great support systems, and it's because of the fact that I searched for them. is because I gave the time, the energy, and the breath to get that counsel that I needed, or to get that advice, or to make that phone call in the middle of the night where I was really struggling. This guy had a bad hand dealt to him then.
He did. I'm not going to take that away from him.
But what decisions and what options did he have? Don't tell me he didn't have options.
Right.
Don't tell me that your hardened criminals that are getting ready to walk the mile and to be executed, that they didn't have choices in their life. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me you were forced to rape and beat and rob somebody. Don't tell me that that was the only choice that you had. Because that's a lie. If you would have turned yourself right and gotten yourself involved in the community or the right programs or with the right people, it could have happened. It's just the will and the want to turn it around.
Of course.
The right way isn't always the easiest. And everybody who obeys the law and pays bills and goes to work every day, everybody knows what I'm talking about. It's not easy being an adult. We all know that.
Adulting sucks.
It sucks.
Sometimes.
It sucks bad, but
sometimes.
Don't ruin somebody else's life because you want to take the easy road out. I mean, if you want to take the easy road out, and this will come up on another episode, jump off McNelly Bridge.
That's
don't ruin somebody else's life. Don't do it.
Well, we really.
So just a side note, that movie with Stone Cold, it was called the Condemned.
The Condemned, that was it.
And they did. The Running Man was done with Arnold Schwarzenegger the same. It was a game show that was set up for people that were going to be executed. They gave them weapons, and if they survived, they were
Basically
able to.
The same,
yeah.
And actually, the concept of the Condemned, I actually really like. The Condemned, the concept of that movie, if you never watched it, is they dropped these people on an island. And they put in different hot spots or places, or they'd have come down through little parachutes. They had weapons and stuff being dropped down. And so
But they had
these
things, like they had those bomb things
that would go off.
Yeah.
If one of the inmates or one of the people being executing found the other person, I think
you could pull it was almost
you
like
could
a
pull it,
grenade.
and they
You
could
pull it.
Or if they try to escape, they could choose to from the main control.
whatever.
From the main
Yeah.
control. That's the same way the Running Man was. That's,
Let's do that. Or, you know what? Let's turn this a little bit more humorous. Let's turn this a little lighter. I love him. He's one of my favorite comedians of all time, George Carlin. George Carlin had a fantastic idea about criminals. Instead of having a ton of different little buildings all over the United States to harbor our inmates, why don't we just allot maybe one state and block it off and put them all there?
Oh my gosh.
Put them all there. Put all the criminals in one area, border it off. And you know what? If they have killing tendencies,
have at it.
Oh, well, there you go. You shouldn't have went to jail in the first place. Just let them. It would be population control at that point. It would.
And it's true. And it's nothing. Being in corrections, and whether I'll ever be in corrections again or not, I don't know that at this point. But it's hard looking after somebody that comes up and you know what they did. And you know their crime is so heinous that that they've done to a kid, because it's all there. You can read it if you want to, and I always do. And they come up and they're complaining that they got a headache, and you're like, I don't care.
You raped a child. You got a headache.
You raped a child. I'm supposed to feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
You know what? I've got a headache. And my headache is I'm here having to take care of you and look at your face after you've done something that terrible to another human being, an innocent life. And not that everybody's life isn't innocent, but I'm saying a child. My gosh, their whole innocence is gone and taken,
Absolutely.
and now you've got a headache. Something else. I know we went to a really deep and dark place with this particular article, but come on. Why are we making easy things so difficult?
Everybody wants to say, what's wrong with today's society? This is what's wrong with today's society. We are not all special. We are not all different. We all have a role to play. And as taxpayers, it's our responsibility to be responsible adults. And this is not being a responsible adult, killing people and doing whatever you want, and then crying because they want to execute you a certain way and you need a pillow.
It makes me nervous about the lifestyle within the prison walls. If this guy feels that he deserves a pillow before he dies, how comfortable are we making it within the walls of the prison?
Too comfortable. People keep coming back.
They do.
People can't stay out of prison.
Yep. That's true. A lot of times when you commit a crime, you go to jail, and let's say you've served a couple year sentence or whatever, and you get released. They've become accustomed to that lifestyle.
Institutionalized.
Right.
It's no different than our neighborhoods and our communities. You start forming different bonds with people, and you start forming different relationships with people, and you start. It's still just like out on the streets right now within the prison systems. They still have that community sense there. They still have their groups of people that they hang out with, they socialize, they talk to. You become accustomed to it. You're used to that lifestyle, and I hate to say it, but what lifestyle is it? Well, it's a lifestyle where you no longer have to worry about the burdens of adulthood. You don't have to worry about
You have to worry about paying
bills.
bills. You don't have to worry about any of it.
You
know
don't have
what?
to worry about where your next meal is coming
No,
from.
you know where it's coming to.
Right.
Right.
And I've talked about this with Sam before, and this is something interesting to bring up as well too. I don't see. Oh my gosh, this is really going to an interesting place. I don't see much difference in the basic principles, before anybody starts going crazy about what I'm going to say, the basic principles of joining the military and being in prison. Think about it for a second. Think about it for 1 second. Somebody owns you. When you're in the prison, you're being watched and you're being taken care of, and there's people above you that's telling you what to do, how to do it, when to do it, setting you on a schedule
What to wear.
every single day. Military. You have your superiors above you in the military that's setting a structured day for you. There are certain rules and regulations that you must follow every day. But again, people can say, well, you can sign up and volunteer to be part of the Army. It's the same difference. You've
You
just
sign up
chosen to go
do
to
a crime.
prison.
Yeah.
You're still being provided in the military with your medical when you're an active soldier. You're being provided with your food every day. You have housing. You have that taken care of for you. And like I think Sam would agree, Sam went overseas several times. It's black and white. You live or you die, especially if you're in infantry. You live and you die. It's black and white, basic, simple. But all that other taking care of the bills is what you save for back home.
Right.
You've got other things to focus on. The basic principles of life and existence is what you have to focus on. Take prison. You're getting your medical taken care of for you. There's a whole nursing unit of people that take care of you and give you your medicines. And if you get really badly injured, you're getting your hospitalization taken care of. And you're being taken to the hospital to get treated. You're getting meals every day. You're getting 4 walls. You don't have to worry about adulting, the hard parts of adulting, like paying bills and wondering how to budget for next week or gas money or anything like that. It's all taken care of for you. There's really a fine line of difference between that sort of structure. But what do you choose to do? And this really gets to a good point, because this Campbell, crappy life, bad history, upbringing, maybe he should have chose to sign up and turn his life around in the Army.
A lot of people do.
Right.
He had that decision.
Absolutely, he did.
I don't know. Maybe I'm being really, really harsh. I've had a really bad run of some really terrible circumstances happen in my life. And I guess I'm a big advocate about choosing to not be a victim.
Right. So, like in these articles, though, was it him that wants the pillow, or is it the system that's...
No, it's him that wants the pillow,
It's
and his
him.
lawyers are fighting for the pillows
Is that what it
because
is?
he apparently, whenever he lays down, he can't breathe. Well, that's the whole point of being executed, is not to be breathing at the end of it.
Right.
Yeah, it's him. The prisoner's attorney says he uses a walker, relies on a colostomy bag, requires 4 breathing treatments a day, and may have lung cancer. Well, come on then.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
Right.
If you're that miserable, let us help you.
So he gets four breathing treatments a day, and he's been in jail for over 40 years. So that means he's able to smoke in solitary confinement or on death row. So he costs the taxpayers more money because he's allowed to smoke. So he gets cancer. So we have to take care of him even further.
Isn't it crazy?
You're allowed to smoke?
Yeah. Apparently, what else? He looks like a smoker.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if there's a look.
There's a look. Everybody knows it.
Well, after so many years.
After so many years, you
Yeah.
can say that he's a smoker.
Poor Tegan, she's been awfully quiet.
Well, I just don't, follow a lot of this stuff. I don't, I don't watch the news. I don't, a lot of this stuff doesn't come across even, my news feed on social media. So, it's a learning experience with you guys because, we are all 3 different. So... No, I'm just sitting back and listening because, I have opinions. I agree. This is a waste of our money. This guy needs to go away. He had choices, and
he made poor choices.
He made very, very poor choices, and took people's lives.
He did. For me, again, based on what I just shared with you guys during the show, and it's pretty deep, what I just shared with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That was a horrific experience.
And I'm going to add this, and Nancy doesn't need to add this. Well, her trial was about to begin. This man who did this to her raped and beat another girl in the parking lot of a bar.
He actually
killed her.
drug her into a bony pile. At one point, she had died, but because of the acts that he was continuing to do to her, shocked her back to life again.
Shocked her system so badly that she came back to life.
And guess what? Guess what she is? She's a functioning member of society.
She's still a victim, but she chooses not to.
Right.
She chooses, right. I don't want anybody to think something bad happens to them that I don't think that you're not a victim. You're a victim. But what you choose to do with that experience after it's happened is really what truly makes you or breaks you as a human being. And again, here's something else to think about as well, too. If this guy's life was that terrible and that traumatic and all these horrible things happen, which again, I'm not going to take that away from him. Maybe really horrific things happened to him growing up. It still goes back with the options. There are facilities and treatment places for people that have serious mental health issues. I guarantee you, if he walked into a building, a mental health facility, and said, I'm going to kill somebody.
Yeah.
Like, I'm at the point
You're
where
gonna get
I'm
somebody's
sick
attention.
of my life. Somebody is going to die by my hands.
Right.
They're probably going to want to take you in a room and have a conversation with you, okay? They're going to figure something out, and they're going to come to a solution. And that's where I get really... Yeah, we get extreme. Listeners, we got extreme about what we said about, taking your own life. And we got extreme about what we said about turning it into a pay-per-view thing. But really, what's it going to take in society right now to make it stop? It's just increasingly getting worse.
It has only gotten
They're
worse.
too busy thinking about feelings. And I know this sounds really bad for me to say that, but at the point where you've committed the crime and it's that heinous and that horrible, I really don't care what your feelings are from this point forward.
Anymore.
I would have cared about your feelings if you would have went to me. Say this same guy was my next door neighbor, and he went to me years ago saying, "Look, I can't handle this life right now. I can't handle it. I'm getting really angry about things. I don't like the hand that was dealt to me. I'm scared about what I can do." I'm not going to be mad at him. I'm not going to be upset with him. I have compassion for a person that realizes they've hit a point where they are no longer strong enough to make some decisions by themselves in this world. Where I have major issues is he had to have known he was crazy. He had to have known driving around in 3 hours in a truck with a guy on the floorboards.
Oh, yeah.
For even a split second. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Telling the guy, I'm not going to kill you. He told the guy he wasn't going to kill him.
And then he kills him.
And then kills him.
How inhumane and torturous is that, sitting on that floorboard praying to be able to go and get your next... And this poor 18-year-old, he's 18 years old. What kind of life experience did he have? He's probably working at a restaurant somewhere or
a grocery store.
Just starting out. For that to happen, I just get really passionate about it. I don't want to hear excuses. I was, not only on top of that, but I was a victim of domestic abuse and violence for about 8 or 9 years of my life on top of that. I mean, if you want to take Lifetime movie gone bad, let's title it Nancy's Life. And here I am. All that has done is made me want to strive to do better or be better.
Right.
Or to work harder to make sure through my stories and my life experiences somebody else doesn't go through this. Like, I would rather take it and channel it. I don't know if this book was true or not, but I read it. Like, I thought it was based on a true story. But then I found out later it could have been a hoax. But the name of the book, anyway, was called A Child Called It.
I've read that book.
I read that book. I'm glad. Now we have something to talk about. That boy in that book was like one of 3 or 4 kids. The mom singled him out, and he, dressed in rags, was horribly beaten, almost died because of a gas concoction that his mother mixed in the bathroom on purpose and locked him in.
Yes.
It almost killed him. He had to eat from his brother and sister's diapers. Like, this was seriously
this
horrific stuff.
Unbelievable.
And he chose to take this book and create it and become a person that travels all around sharing his story. So if anybody else underwent trauma and things like that, that they would know that there was somebody there that they could talk to. Like, he went around, what word am I looking for? It's a basic word. He went around being a...
Advocate or...
What word am I looking for? That's not the right word. He was going around doing speeches about just bettering yourself, turning your life around after something traumatic has happened, and still waking up every day being thankful for what you had and things like that.
And there is, and if you look up my resume, my life resume, as far as society goes, I have every excuse in the book, and Nancy does too, to slam heroin into my veins or to do bad and to blame it on other people. I've got post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm this, I'm that. It's a choice that you make. It's not who you've become. It's the choices that you make. You become that person.
I agree 100%. And not all of us we're all different. We're all individuals, and we only have certain levels that we can work with and deal with and work through on our own. Sam and I would say are two very strong-willed people. Not everybody's strong-willed. We get that. Not everybody can push themselves through very extreme circumstances the way that we both have. But again, it takes me right back full circle again, back to the point where in this world and in this life with the opportunities and the programs available and things like that, because people care so much about other people, and there's ways for you to get that mentorship that you need, to get that person that's gonna to help you work through whatever issues that you have. And I guess that's where, this whole story with this guy just put me on a tangent. This Campbell guy, how dare you? How dare you? You've been given things that you shouldn't have been given for a lot of years within that prison system. Mm-hmm. Please don't make news here. Just please bow down gracefully.
Give him an extra sheet, tie it up. I mean, that's I've seen it too much. There's horrible people out there, and if you don't watch the news and you're oblivious to it, it still happens.
Absolutely.
There's still
Absolutely does.
horrible people out there that as soon as just kill you as they would look at you or to say hi to you.
Mm-hmm. And I know this might be contradictory. I still believe if you do bad crimes, any crimes, we have rules put in place in society for a reason. If you commit crimes, you have to face whatever penalties come with it. If you've done a crime that could put you in jail, I don't believe everybody in jail should be terminated. I don't believe that at all. I believe that there's people that are victim of circumstances when it comes to, okay, you've made a bad choice, you've done something terrible, you really made a horrific choice, you're in prison now.
Right.
I don't believe everybody should go to the front of the line and die. I mean, your sentence should be to be within the walls of the prison and whatever. Sometimes there's crimes of, who knows where I could have been years down the line after getting abused and stuff like that with my abuser. Who's to say I wouldn't have snapped at one point? That's why they have the programs like Wives with Knives and things like that. You just hit a point where after so much time, you can only take so much. And even with a strong-willed person, after consistently something like that happens, you might not make the best life choice. I'm not saying, there's people that I'm sure Sam has worked with within the prison system that maybe in their youth they did something wrong and now they've been in there for 15, 20 years and they're not a youth anymore.
No, there's one man, and everybody, that I worked with, they know who he is. And I'm not going to mention any names. I'm not going to give him that. He was a young man, held somebody up. The guy had a heart attack and died 2 days later, and they gave him a life sentence for it. Now, if you'd meet this man on the street, he's the most polite person you're ever going to meet. Do I think he's truly rehabilitated? Absolutely. But he doesn't have the opportunity now because of the choices he makes. But he's not asking for anything. He's not making anybody's else life miserable for the stuff that he's done. He knows what he's done. Unfortunate that he held this guy up at gunpoint. The guy had a heart attack and died. He's accepted it. He doesn't. You can look. He's been in prison for a long time, and he doesn't have any misconducts. Sometimes when people get first in there and they do have a life sentence, they're wild at first. This guy never had a misconduct.
And you almost feel bad for him in a way, but you don't.
Right.
You just made that choice. Now you have to live with that choice.
You got to live with it.
And he's chosen not to be the victim. He could go there every day and say, "But look at me. Look at my history.
My lawyer
this
screwed
is
me.
unfair.
My lawyer
This
screwed
is
me."
terrible. It's unfair." No, I get it. I had a path to choose from. I had options. I made the wrong decision. As much as I'm a reformed guy now, you have to make your own peace. And he's made his own peace within the walls that he's in and is carrying on in life the way that he needs to. But
This has been a heavy a heavy program, and I'm not going to apologize for it. But every once in a while, you might get a heavy program from us,
yes,
because we are real people, and this is real life, and it's real situations. So this is the news. We decided what we're going to do for this morning, for Friday morning, and for our fifth show, and it just happens that this is what's going on in the news right now. So we went with it,
We turned it from Black Friday to Black and Blue Friday.
Black.
We didn't get out of the red. We were talking about the red. I guess it's one of those sort of programs. And I feel bad Tegan hasn't got a chance to really talk a lot this program. But like she said, I think it's more of just a learning.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's things that I can talk about that, you guys might not be able to associate with, and vice versa. That's the dynamic of the three of us.
Right.
It is. It is. So let's just take it in our last bit of time here into something a little bit more lighthearted, which that's so funny that we talk about it now at the end of the program. It is Black Friday, by the way. I know we've been talking about death, destruction, and everything else. But as far as you are concerned, we want you to be safe today. Make sure, I'm sure most of you have been out and about probably for hours now, getting your Black Friday shopping on.
And you probably had thoughts of murder running through your head.
Maybe that's the whole reason why we're having this conversation. Sam and I normally go Black Friday shopping, and maybe we were thinking about all the animosity that happens. Black Friday shoppers. Let's talk about this. I know you're mad because the last finger monkey fingerling's been picked by the person in front of you.
Don't kill them. Don't kill them.
Decisions.
Make the right decision.
Please make the right decision.
Count to 10.
And walk away.
We don't want to have to talk about you as you're older and if you deserve a pillow or not, okay? We really don't want to have that conversation with you.
Right.
Just, make good choices, drive safe, be safe, and let's at least take a few minutes. Maybe this will be a little longer show than what we normally plan for, but let's turn this around a little bit, too. I know we were really, really heavy. I feel bad for you. We'll post maybe our question or our thought for the day based on maybe just about this guy. Do you feel that this guy should have had a pillow for execution, or what are your thoughts on execution?
What are your thoughts on execution? I think you basically know what our thoughts on execution are.
Maybe a little extreme. We tend to be on the dramatic side.
But no, you told your story, obviously, and you both have had to live.
We've lived with serious trauma in our lives.
Absolutely.
And it was very easy at times. I'm not saying I was perfect. There was times where I went through some really dark, deep, low places. And it shows you what kind of person that you truly are, what kind of resilience you have, or what word am I looking for here? It just shows you the strength of the human mind, when you can get yourself back out of a place like that. That shows, you learn some strength that you don't even realize that you had through situations like that. But again, like I said, let's turn this around a little bit. Let's talk about some weird news. That was weird news in itself. That got us on a whole entire tangent about the movie The Condemned. By the way, that was a good movie too. If you've never watched the movie Condemned, watch the movie Condemned. If you've never read the book, The Boy Called It, definitely read that book. True or not, it's still a pretty powerful story to read.
Oh gosh, it's a very tough story to read.
I'm gonna have to read that. I've never read that book.
Yeah,
it's hard to get through. It's really hard to get through.
And I was reading, because it was a true story.
I'm gonna download it.
He went into the foster system when he was 12 because his teachers were the ones that pulled him out of his home life.
So to bring us back here, it's our first week. It's our fifth show. Thank you to everybody that's shown their support for us and the comments that we've gotten. I want to continue to grow. Please share us as much as you want. Pass the word along. If people don't like us, they don't have to. Nobody is telling them they have to. Just mention, hey, these people talk about real stuff.
Right. And with this episode in particular, we talked about. Of course, we try to come up with a plan for our show, and we knew we were going to start delving into these subjects, and we knew that we were going to get real passionate about subjects like this, just because of our history. If you weren't crazy about this episode, that's okay.
That is okay. But you two obviously, are proof that you have a choice.
You do have a choice.
You do have a choice every single day. You have a choice.
And believe me, there were nights I don't want to get deeper into this, but just basic. There were nights after being abused for so many years, mentally sometimes is even worse than walking around with a bruise on your face,
Right.
because the mental scars, the emotional scars cut far deeper and can last for far longer. I'm telling you, there were nights where I struggled to not want to make a rash decision that would have changed the entire course of my life, and I could have been that person behind bars. Thankfully, with a lot of faith and belief and hope that I could get myself out of it, I got myself out of that. But, and that's the reason why Sam and I are both so strong about our opinions with that. Sam being, a person that's been overseas several times and coming back and having to deal, with some of the issues that he's had because of the trauma that he's undergone, and that there's lows for vets when they come back from overseas. There's a lot of demons and a lot of monsters.
Yeah. I'm not even going to talk about it. It's deep.
It's deep.
It's deep.
It is. So again, we appreciate you listening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We know you have strong opinions as well too. That's why we're going to leave our questioning the way that we left it. Tell us what you think about it. If you think we're lack compassion and we're cold, inhumane people, tell us that. That's fine. We respect your opinion. We would never pass judgment on you about what your thoughts are. But we want to hear from you too. And we also just we might end up putting here within the next day or two. Just how are we doing? What do you think about us? What do you think about the show?
If there's something you'd like us to discuss on a show,
Absolutely.
Sure.
Let us
Yeah,
know.
we want your opinions and subjects.
If you didn't like it so heavy today, tell us you didn't like it so heavy today. If you wish we were a little more serious, let us know if you wanted us a little more serious. We're feeling our way through this, just like you're trying to establish what you feel and think about us. So, we'd love to get your feedback.
Yeah, we would. All right. Well, that's it for today's program of
Too
Large in a Sarge.